1, 2, 2. 8, 1, 2.
Ages 18 to 35 only. See you there. Well, it is time for us to worship God and hear a word from the Lord. The magnification team is coming first, then Pastor Brown is continuing his series, Words Matter, using the 7 last sayings of Jesus. You don't want to miss this word.
Good morning. My name is Victory. Tell somebody I got evidence. God gave me authority to conquer the enemy. He wrote in my destiny that my name is Victory. He said that I'm overcome. I know I've already won. He wrote in my destiny that my name is Victory. I know who I God gave me authority to conquer the enemy. He wrote in my destiny that my name is Victory. He said that I'm overcome. I know I've already won. He wrote in my destiny that my name is Victory. I know who I am. God wrote it in His
so they can see my lips are moving. I got big old lips, so it shouldn't be that difficult. Hey, Cliff, Kevin, guys out there, this is Mike Check. We are coming to you live on Sunday morning from Resurrection Baptist Church in Church, Texas. I am spending a little time with Brittany and Carl. Brittany is ecstatic today because her team won last night and upset the University of Texas Longhorns 53-52 in an exciting game where the UT Longhorns looked a little lethargic, and ACU came out and pressed them out of the building. Their defense caused over 20 turnovers for the University of Texas. Now, 21 turnovers had been the high for Texas, and they lost that game too. They had at least 23 or 24 last night, and a crucial one right at the end of the game. Now, ACU's center stepped up, and he's a 59% shooter, converted 2 big free throws at the end of the game to win the game, to put them up by 1 point. Texas and Shaka Smart are shocked and lose a big first-round NCAA tournament game, and that puts Shaka Smart's job in jeopardy because they've been trying to get rid of him for a while, and now with COVID and everything happening and him losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament, that severely puts his job in jeopardy. Now, Brittany doesn't care. Brittany is all about ACU, and the wonderful ACU alums, I'm sure, ran all over town last night because they were pretty happy about this outcome. Now, again, my comment to Brittany was, this is Texas. You should love everything Texas. But Brittany says Abilene is a little bit more exciting than just all of Texas, so just deal with it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to celebrate Brittany and her exciting accomplishment and her team. She is proudly wearing her ACU gear this morning and drinking her Starbucks coffee. I'm sure a few people owe her Starbucks coffee after that big win, and she'll be walking around gloating all day. But guess what? We got to be here at church, and we are here for the Lord. So in conclusion, Brittany, we don't care. We don't care, Britt. We are excited about being here at church. Even though you are happy, we are happy too because we are here at church. Now, we have Brother Kinsley, we have Brother Nick. Everybody is here and excited. We have our people in the back. We have my big man Kevin. We have our friend Cliff back and Mr. William Bell. Everybody is in attendance. My man Carl is checking everything out. We are here. We are getting prepared for the next couple of weeks of service because guess what? It is almost time for us to come back, and we want to make sure that everything is in line. So, Britt, can you go back and check with Cliff and Kevin and see if they're getting everything okay and everything sounds okay, please? So we want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to make sure that next week when we come back into this service, everything is prepared. So we have a couple of new cameras. We have some new camera cable that we ran. We have Brother Kinsley up there pushing a couple of buttons. He's running a couple of cameras. If you want to, Brother Kinsley, you can go back and forth with the cameras and just kind of stay tight and kind of mess around just so they can see what's kind of going on. Nick, we hope Nick won't mess up any of the audio. Nick, how does these new mics sound? They sound a little bit better. Is it a little tinny? You hear that? Is that a little tinny? You have to get them. Am I hearing that? You hear that little tinny? Yes? It's only in here? Okay, because, okay, yeah, just checking. Like I said, it sounds a little, but so you got to get all that kind of lined up just to make sure it works. Just to get everything up there and down here to be copacetic. But other than that, we are outstandingly outstanding. We are moving right along. We've been 10 minutes into this test. We've been streaming now for about 25 minutes because I think we started at 15 till. We are streaming out to Facebook and YouTube. We're streaming out to the media test page. And it sounds like, it looks like, and hopefully everything is going out smoothly, not choppy. We are on the correct frame rate because we are going out live. Guys in the back, I hope everything is going the way we think it should be going. I know I don't have my mask on. I know that, I'm walking around here. I'm trying not to walk around dirty, but we got to do what I got to do so we can see what is happening, what's going on, making sure that the stream is solid and clear, that it's not choppy. And Brother Cliff is in the house, walking over a little too hunched over, Cliff. I need you to stand up straight. There you go. My man Cliff is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Clifford Glass is back in the house. We are streaming live. Everything. Oh, yeah. That is outstanding. Yep, we're back, and that's streaming out, and that's, so now, okay. Oh, yeah, because it's still 2 minutes behind. Or no, that's longer than 2 minutes. We switched about 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Did that just switch? Yeah, no, it looks great. Okay, yeah, that's what it, yeah. Okay. What's, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, the quality is good. Okay, okay, Nick, so we're good with this one. So then now so now Cliff, you want to switch to a different stream out? Yeah, let's go a different way. So Nicholas, put us back on ProPresenter, please. Put us back on ProPresenter so then now we're gonna test okay, cool. I'm gonna turn this mic off and we'll test the next version, next iteration of what we're doing.
Good morning, family and friends. Thank you once again for joining us on today. I know you've already been blessed by the Magnification Ministry, and we're getting ready for the Word right now. We're continuing a series of sermons inspired from the final words from the cross of Christ as we travel down this road to resurrection. It's almost here. Easter's almost here. This month, we're recognizing women's history. In fact, there's a word in our text for today that will help us to honor that. Today, scripture reading comes from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 19, beginning at verse 25. And let me read into your hearing verses 25 through 27. It reads, "Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, 'Woman, here is your son.' And to the disciple, 'Here is your mother.' From that time on, this disciple took her into his home." We want to tag this text with this title, "A Woman's Worth." A woman's worth. It's interesting to me that the first word of the third word that Jesus shouted from the cross was the word woman. Suspended between a weeping heaven and a weary earth, he said woman. Hanging on a hill called Calvary, that place where all the rivers of prophecy run together into the sea of fulfillment, he looked down from the cross and saw his mother and said, woman. He did not call her mother. Instead, he called his mother woman. Could it be that he did not call her mother simply to highlight the role of women in his life and in his death? Could it be that he called her woman and not mother, so that even in his exit, as has been the case in his entrance, he could establish women in their rightful place in his legacy? Because although every mother is a woman, every woman is not a mother. Therefore, Jesus used the word woman at this time, the time of his crucifixion, to establish the standing and status of a woman's worth once and for all in that space and in that place. The majority of the men that followed him had already gone back to their past lives. The men had already headed back to the docks and to their fishing. The crowds that he called and healed and fed and taught and delivered had now dissipated. The disciples whom he mentored and challenged and empowered and encouraged were noticeably absent. The crowd looked on. The two criminals crucified alongside him hung on. His accusers kept on. The soldiers wagered on. The detractors continued on while the women held on. Most textual commentators point out that there were at least 3 to 4 women present at the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The women outnumbered the men 4 to 1. There was one man there, John, but 4 women. His mother's sister, who was his auntie Mary Magdalene, Mary of Clopas, and Salome, the mother of James and John. Things had changed in the 33 years that had passed. In 33 years, his mother had shared the shift from angelic cherubs singing to angry crowds shouting. In 33 years, she had moved from the Magnificat to a massacre, from a celebration to a crucifixion. And looking back in reflection, most of those 33 years had been positive and upbeat. There had been tense times to tackle, like the moment when she and Daddy Joe were ridiculed, scorned, criticized, and doubted when word got out in the community that she was pregnant before the wedding. There had been periods of pressure, like the time when they had to enroll into the witness protection program and smuggle Jesus across the border into Africa like an illegal immigrant, because the government had ordered a hit on all babies under the age of 2. They had migrated through some anxious minutes when he was temporarily misplaced in the temple, and an Amber Alert had to be issued when they couldn't locate him. To both their shock and chagrin, he was later discovered leading an advanced course in theology among the religious leaders. His daddy had taught him a trade. His mother had raised him to be a leader, ever aware that the life expectancy for men from her community was tragically abbreviated. Call it mother's wit, call it female intuition, call it discernment, call it whatever you want to call it, but his mama knew somewhere down in her heart that eventually there would come a moment in his life when he wouldn't be able to rely on nobody except God alone. And now, standing there at the shadow of his cross, her worst fears had been realized. His fame turned to shame. His treasurer had sold him out in an IRS audit. Peter, the rock, crumbled like a pebble. His closest colleagues abandoned him. The Jewish people had rejected him. The chief priests conspired against him. The Roman soldiers crucified him. But these women and his mama stood by him. Y'all help me here. Watching her son die in a cruel and ignominious fashion, she struggled with the grief and grappled with the hurt that only a mother could have known. She had done what God had asked her to do, and now she was witness to a carefully choreographed crucifixion scenario, because she lived in a generation where truth was rejected, error was accepted, families were disconnected, youth were misdirected, wrong was selected, immoral people were respected, communities were crime infected, and so only chaos could be expected. Preach, Pastor. She stood where countless other mothers had stood, watching her son become ensnared by a criminal justice system that was run by a bunch of criminals. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? All she could do was stand there and watch him die. She stood there, but she's not standing alone. There was one man, but there's several women. And when Jesus looks through swollen eyes, when Jesus looks through the filter of blood-laced tears, when Jesus spots his mama standing at the foot of the cross, when he sees her, he calls her not mother, not mama, but woman. Now, the first time, it wasn't the first time he had said this, but the first time that he had called her woman was at the commencement of his ministry. During his first public appearance at the wedding of Cana of Galilee, the wedding had been wonderful. The nuptials were nice. The reception had begun and the party was in full gear. I mean, everything that could go down was going down. They were shaking and rocking when unexpectedly and embarrassingly, the text says the wine ran out. Now, for all you modern day Pharisees, I'm sorry, let me just pause right here and just say it again. Jesus was at a wedding where they were serving wine and the wine ran out. Oh, okay, I missed some. For all you Sadducees, Jesus was at a wedding when the wine was running out. His mother, eager to parade the powers her son possessed for the public, assertively, albeit erroneously, suggested that he, Savior of the world, he, the shepherd of the world, he, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, should do something about the wine deficit. Now, maybe she was out of order. Perhaps a miracle had not been scheduled on his messianic itinerary, but influenced by that woman, and like every good man with half an ounce of good sense, he did exactly what that woman instructed him to do and turned water into wine. Somebody ought to say, preach, Pastor. He called her woman at commencement, and now at the conclusion, he refers to her again as woman. The tender affection and titanic sense of responsibility for his mother are no more apparent than in this text. Jesus took seriously the responsibility of the firstborn son to take care of his mother, fulfilling the law of Moses to honor your mother and your father. With Joseph already deceased, Jesus on the cross acted to ensure that his mother would receive adequate support after his departure. Now, I got to park here just for a moment and just tell some searching single sister listening to me that you can tell a whole lot about a man by how he relates to his mama. If he ain't treating her right, then he ain't going to treat you right. Man, I wish I had a crowd right here. If he disrespects her, expect to be disrespected. Alicia Keys tried to put it in the song and said, a real man knows a real woman when he sees her. And a real woman knows a real man ain't afraid to please her. And a real woman knows a real man always comes first. And a real man just can't deny a woman's worth. I like those words. Jesus knew and understood that with his death, his mother would be a woman without support. Now, mind you, she's a woman in a male-dominated culture. She's a widow in a culture that did not help or care for the poor. And so Jesus did not call her woman in disrespect or dishonor, but to divert a dilemma with a divine design. He could leave her no inheritance and no insurance, but he could provide a plan that would produce for her long after he was gone. And so looking down from the cross, he sees not only his mama, but he spots out his ride or die disciple by the name of John. John, y'all know him. The one who was not chauvinistic or misogynistic, not co-opted by the culture or the caste. Jesus assigns that John to be both her provider and protector. He called her woman, even though she was a mother tried, tested, and true. He called her woman, even though she possessed a mother's love and a mother's longing and a mother's loyalty. Could it be that he did not call her mother, but called her woman because it was his desire to give her and every other woman after her a positive, poignant, and pivotal place in his life, his leadership, and his legacy? Y'all need to hear me today. Maybe he called her woman to set the women rightfully in his ministry message and mission, because based on his word choice and his noun selection, could it be that he was subtly communicating to all of us that whatever you do in my name, from this point forward, you need to make sure to recognize a woman's worth? Somebody ought to shout amen somewhere in that space. From inception to conception, there was a woman in it. From his embryonic fetal odyssey to nursing him on her breast, there was a woman in it. From cradle to the crypt, there was a woman in it. From carrying him as the word inside her womb for 9 months to delivering him into the world 33 years before, there was a woman in it. From innocence of his infancy to the curiosity of his childhood, there was a woman in it. Through his tedious teens into his trying 20s, there was a woman in it. And 3 years into his tiring 30s, there was a woman in it. And so Jesus shouts from the cross, muddling through an onset of agony and pain, "Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." Behold means to gaze at for a long time, to focus on with intentionality. John, this is your new assignment. For 3 years, you've been my road dog. For 3 years, we've been ride or die. But this is your assignment now, John. Your assignment now is my mama. And from here on out, I want you to be me for the rest of your life. Jesus, our substitute, commissioned John to be his substitute in the life of Mary. Remember, John, along with the other disciples, had initially retreated at the sight of the Roman legionnaire. But here he is now. He's mentioned because although initially he retreated, he eventually returned, and he returned at the foot of the cross. Don't miss that, because it doesn't matter what you did in your past. It only matters what you choose to do in your present. He retreated, but then he returned, and Jesus gives him a momentous assignment. Here was a disciple who was flawed, who had failed and fled, and then Jesus gave him the imperative charge of taking care of his mother as long as she's alive. And do you know what I think Jesus would say to you and me from the cross of Calvary? Can I just share it with you real quick? I believe Jesus would say, "I'm going back to the Father, and I want you to do my work. I want you to be me until I come back. I won't be here to preach anymore. I won't be here to teach anymore. I won't be here to feed the hungry and to free the oppressed and to heal the sick and to love mercy and dispense justice. But I want you to be me. I want you to do my work, and I want you to make sure that as you do my work," watch it, here it is, "as you speak my words, as you lead my people, make sure there's a woman up in it." Don't permit paternalism to proceed. Don't permit chauvinism to control you. You be me and make sure what you do in my name, you got a woman up in it. Because in me, there's no bond nor free. There's no black or white. There's no Hispanic or Asian. There's no male or female. You are all one in my name. Y'all hear me when I say this way. I don't know what the problem is, why people got to be so against other people who are not like them. God does not have any big eyes and little U's. Hear me well. God has no hands but our hands. God has no feet but our feet. God has no tongue but our tongue to tell people that Christ died. God has no help but our help to bring people to his side. Jesus is saying to us, "I want you to be me, and as you do my work and as you speak my word, as you expand my kingdom, don't make it a black thing, a white thing. Don't make it a male thing, a man thing. It ain't about biology. The kingdom is much bigger than that. You got to get a woman up in it." And I hear somebody saying right now, "Why is this so significant? Why are you even preaching on that?" I'm getting ready to show you right now. Because first of all, my friend, this text points to the fact that, number one, there was a woman in the promise. I know it took me a long time to get there, but here it is. Because what was happening on the cross here is fulfillment of Genesis 3:15. Y'all read your Bibles. You know what happened in Genesis. Prior to the entry of sin into reality, Adam and Eve lived together in a fearless world. That's why it was called paradise. They were one with creation. They were one with each other. They were one with God. They were living in a wonderful place. Somebody got it, somebody didn't. With one commandment: don't touch the tree of knowledge. One commandment. They had everything they needed. They were living in the Garden of Eden. They were given a choice every day to choose to trust God, but then came the serpent, sowing seeds of doubt, offering a sweeter deal, and just like that, for the first time in their experience, they were afraid. And once they were afraid that God was holding out on them. That although they were in paradise, paradise all of a sudden wasn't enough. They were afraid that although they had each other and loved each other and were made for each other, that they weren't enough for each other. And fear drove their choice. Hear me when I say this, y'all. When you mishandle your fear, it will do you in. That's a whole nother sermon. They took matters into their own hands, and fear overwhelmed their freedom, and their fellowship with the Father was fractured. Fear, mismanaged, always leads to sin. In the garden, it's only after sin comes in that the man tries to dominate the woman. It's only after sin comes in that the woman tries to seduce the man. And when Jesus looked down from the cross on that day, he said, I see the same thing happening in Rome right now. Women are disrespected and neglected. Women are viewed as defective and deficient. In Rome, where he was being crucified on the cross, women were being objectified. If I had time, I'd talk about that. That women are being objectified today. They are objects. And so Jesus says, I want to make sure that the rules of the Romans don't make it into the ranks of the faithful. Looking down from the cross, he says, woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Take my mama home. I've got a promise hanging over her life. Take her home. I've got a promise hanging over your life. And that promise is that trouble can't last always. That the wicked have to cease from troubling, and the weary have to be at rest, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I got a promise that nothing shall be able to separate you from the love of God that is coming to you through me, that they that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. That there's a bright side somewhere. Joy will come in the morning. Take my mama home. God has already made a promise, and it happened in the beginning. God said, I'm going to put enmity, I'm going to put antagonism and resentment between the woman and you, talking to Satan, between your seed and her seed. His seed is going to bruise your head, and you will only be able to bruise his heel. A woman was present in the promise. Can I tell you why? Because a woman was designed to be a partner. That's my second point. And I'm not talking about just with men, a partner with God. God will use a woman in ways that you've never dreamed of. Women are not inferior to men in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I sure hope y'all getting this. Because a real man will not try to grow tall by making her short. Men and women are different by design. And for 30 years, y'all, 30 years that God has allowed me to serve in this ministry, I've tried to champion the value of women. Because if you read the New Testament, you got to read the Bible, and I have closely. I've evolved over the years, and I understand that there were women preachers and teachers. In fact, when you read it real closely, Priscilla had to teach Apollos how to preach. When God designed the women physiologically, God did it with salvation in mind. Her physiology is different. When God anesthetized Adam in the garden and took a rib out of his side, not out of his back to follow him, not out of his fingers to lead him, not out of his head to be above him, nor his feet to be beneath him, but out of his side, beside every good man. Not behind, beside. God fashioned a woman in a divine image. Can I teach for a minute? Because God did it in such a way that when God presented the woman to the man, he was speechless. He said, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. God designed her with salvation in mind. Long before we messed things up, God had already planned to patch things up. And God has wired a woman with the capacity to carry a baby in her womb for 9 months and feed the baby and to nurture the baby and provide everything the baby would ever need to be healthy and to be whole. Physiologically, a woman's body will pull all the impurities out of the baby's body through a piece of tissue that we call the placenta, in a scientific process we call osmosis. And while feeding the baby, watch this, sending in what the baby needs and cleansing the baby, pulling out the toxins that would kill the baby, God has so designed her that not one drop of her blood will enter the baby's bloodstream, even though the baby is on the inside of her. Preach. Y'all ain't getting this, but here it is. Because that's why you don't see women taking the test on Maury Povich. It ain't who the baby mama is. It's who that baby, y'all help me here. Who the baby daddy, because the baby has the daddy's blood and not the mama's blood. Preach, Pastor. God already knew that we were going to break the relationship. As a result, we were going to be broken, and God was going to have to send a savior. And so when God designed the woman, he designed her so that the baby would not carry her blood. So when Mary conceived a child full of the Holy Spirit, it wasn't her blood, it was the daddy's blood. And that's why we shout at the table, there is a fountain filled with blood drawn from Emmanuel's vein. The blood, y'all, still works, and it never loses its power. It was the daddy's blood. I got to go. I'm through preaching. There was a woman in it. There was a woman in the promise. There was a woman as a partner. And then there was a woman in the plan. God showed the world that God will choose and use a woman sometimes to do what a man can't do or is afraid to do. And down through history, God used countless women. And even now in modern times, God is overturning our notion about woman made in his image. On the cross, Jesus shouts, not mother, but woman, I'm pulling you from the background to the forefront. Woman, I'm going to put you first and then I'll die, because she's the reason I'm living. Woman, could it be that he called her woman in recognition of the many women who made such an indelible impression on the redemption story? Because think about it for a moment. There was a woman in it from start to finish. From Elizabeth welcoming him prenatally, from Mary birthing him in a barn in Bethlehem. There was a woman in it. From Peter's mother-in-law dying of a fever but cured by his word. There was a woman in it. From the daughter of Jairus, dead and ready to be buried but raised remotely by the strength of his word. There was a woman in it. From the sister sitting at the well in Samaria, whose life was a rotating door for serial monogamists, but who was delivered by the divine psychotherapist when Jesus told her everything that she had ever done. There was a woman in it. Nameless women like the woman with the issue of blood. Nameless woman like the one that was bent over for 18 years. There were anonymous women, like the woman who lost a coin but swept the house clean in order to find it and then rejoiced when she did. There were anonymous women, like the woman who was caught in an issue of adultery, whose life story he wrote in the sand. And then there were notable women, like Mary and Martha, who saw their brother raised from the dead. Like Pilate's wife, who had a premonition and advised Pilate not to fool with Jesus because he's been with God. Like Mary, who displayed her love for her son while God manifested his love for the sinners. There was a woman in it. Y'all, I got to go. I got to go. But when the sun rose on Easter Sunday morning, Jesus knew that when he got up, there would be women there. Because a woman was last at the tomb and first at the grave. A woman was in it. And I don't know how you feel about it, but if I was in the church right now with some organ and some music and some shouting people, I'd have to testify, just like I'm about to do right now, that in my life, in my marriage, and in my home, in my church, there's always been a woman in it. And I wonder, is there any women who are listening to me right now who plans to be in it? If you're a woman, just say, I'm in this thing. You ought to give God praise for being in it, for him including you in it, for him putting you in it, for him holding you in it, for him keeping you in it, for him sustaining you in it. Won't he do it because God is Adam's redeemer. God is Abel's vindicator. God is Noah's zookeeper. God is Gideon's wet blanket. God is Samson's power. He's David's music, but he's also Eve's matchmaker. He's Rachel's blind date. He's Leah's baby maker. He's Miriam's dance partner. God is Hannah's fertility specialist. God is Deborah's war weapon. Esther's fashion coordinator. Ruth's wedding planner. Naomi's joy. Gomer's wedding counselor. Martha's meal plan. And Mary's baby daddy. There was a woman in it. You ought to tell somebody, I got the image of God down in my soul. Give him glory. Give him praise. There was a woman in it.
What an incredible word from Pastor.
Yeah, either way, whichever one you want, just as long as it's, yeah, camera one. And you can just push the button. You don't, yeah, there you go. So we just need to test to make sure that it's going, so it should be going out. Just want to make sure that they're seeing it in the back. Mic check, mic. So now, today's talk back would be with my brother. We're going to talk about Carl today. My man Carl is outstanding. Carl is a Cowboys fan from San Antonio. Carl has been working at this church for as long as this church has been around. He is very good at what he does. And you know what? He don't care if you like it or not, because Carl will let you know how he feels about the whole situation. And we appreciate that from Brother Carl, because he is a quality individual. Now, in the house, we have Brother Eddie Kinsley. Brother Kinsley is taking care of the cameras right now. In the back, we have quite a few people. We have my man Nick upstairs running audio. We have my man Kevin back in the back helping with the stream. We have our man Brother William Bell doing what he's doing, helping with the stream also. And we have our man Cliff. And as always, we have the lovely Brittany Johnson. And the lovely Brittany Johnson happens to be, as we said before, an ACU graduate and very happy this morning. But we're not going to talk about ACU or Texas or any of that anymore. We want to make sure that you are getting prepared for everything that is coming in the next couple of weeks. And everything that is coming is we will be live. So we want to make sure that everything is 100% correct going into the next couple of weeks. Now, if my man Nick doesn't get this tinniness out of this mic, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have an issue. We're going to have some resolution that we need taken care of. But, hey, my man Nick knows what he's doing. So we won't worry about that at this moment. But for now, we just want to make sure that everything is streaming correctly, everything is going through smoothly, everything is everything the way it should be. We want to make sure that the stream is in the back. Nick, can you make sure that in the back that everything's working? Back with them, because I think Cliff is on the phone. So we just want to make sure that the stream is going out nice and smoothly, and that there's no glitches, no hitches, no freezing or anything like that, because that has been our problem going into this, making sure there's no little skipping and that kind of thing, because I want to make sure that my movements are nice and smooth, just like they're supposed to be. We want to make sure that the audio is following the video, it's going through smoothly, it is nice quality, it is not stuttering, which we had a problem with, and everything is working to a T, because again, next week, getting the word out, we'll be going live to a select few. Not everyone quite yet, because we still want to stay safe. We still want to be social distance. We want to see everybody eventually one day back in the sanctuary, but we have to do it safely, soundly, crisply, and so we'll do it in a step-by-step manner. And so there'll be a few people in here. I think it's mostly just going to be staff for the first week, staff and deacons, and then we'll move forward. By Easter, we'll have a few more people. I think we'll have maybe up to 75 people in here, maybe 100 people by Easter. I'm not sure. I forget what the number is. But we want to have a positive service, and we want to be positively affected by the amount of people that can be in here, and everyone can be in here and be safe. Safe is a big deal. And this last year, we've been staying safe by staying apart, but we just want to make sure that that safety continues and the safety protocols end up doing what they're supposed to do, that you are safe and sound, that you come back and you enjoy us when it's time to enjoy each other again. Now, I don't know what else to say. I can always talk, but I'm about done with whatever I can make fun. I can talk to Carl, but I ain't gonna make fun of Carl, because Carl will cut me to the bone. And we don't need Carl cutting on nobody up in here. But nobody in the media, so I'm gonna keep that to myself. Carl has done an excellent job on keeping everything sanitized and prioritized and ready for the next weeks, and he is doing that right now. And that is an outstanding thing because, again, safety matters. As long as you're being safe, we're being safe, and we're being prepared, everything will be good. And I know that the Spanish service people will be in here in about 13 minutes, so they can start warming up and that kind of thing. So that should be it. I think they got everything. So Brother Kinsley, if you'll go back to the other computer behind you, and click on that second file that you see there's two files, there's one on top, one on the bottom. In the center screens, click on that second file that says 13 or 21 March, blah, blah, blah. It should say that. You click on that, it should start playing again, or double click on it. You might have to double click on it. You see the one I'm talking about? It's in the middle box. It says, It's playing? Okay, so then hit 6 where on that middle row. There you go. That's it. That's it. Thank you. I'm done talking.
One, two, two, two. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
What's up, Miss Ashley?
How you doing?
Hello.
Is this gonna be the ox? Okay. All right. Yeah, I was trying to look for it because I always find there's a little red thingy that I have, but
Oh, you want it out here? But you want it over here, though?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
For today. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Just lay right there. I'll go get a power cable.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, wait. I won't need a power cable.
No, te vas a conectar acá. Sí, ese es de César.
I should just be able to.
Oh.
And if I did it right, abracadabra.
Power.
Yeah. I thought because this one was powered, it would just chain it, but no.
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2.
How?
The same. Forward, power switch is right here.
We can do like this too? Okay. And take off? Okay. Because you remember one, and the other micro is broken.
Yeah, these are a little stronger. It's always better to do. Perfect. But you're not gonna hurt it like.
Yeah,
you did
no,
the other
no, no.
one.
Sí, sí.
Look, I want to parlay.
Okay. Ah, ya.
Okay, ready?
Ahí en las sillas.
No, que quiero un carro así. Oh, okay.
Sammy.
Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Sí.